dos, tres, cuatro.
Hello, and you're very, very welcome to our 9th Student Enterprise Program live broadcast and our second for 2021. First of all, guys, I hope you guys are all safe and well, and that the remote learning over the last 2 weeks hasn't been too stressful. So that's the first thing. This is a particularly difficult time for you guys. You put all this work into your Student Enterprise Program idea at this stage. Now you just have to go the extra mile to get it over the line, because it's a difficult time with no classroom. Tonight, we're going to be talking all about finance. God, that gets you very excited, doesn't it? So finance it is tonight. Let's see who's in the green room. Let's have a quick look at who's in the green room. Oh, by golly, it's not too busy. It's not too busy in the green room tonight. Very empty, Caroline.
It's just me tonight, Greg.
So Caroline, lovely to see you. What are we going to be talking about tonight? Or should I say, what are you going to be talking about tonight?
Well, tonight, Greg, we're going to be talking about finances. And I know for students, it's a challenging time. So what I've actually done is try to simplify it and make it as easy as possible. And by the end of tonight, and with the support of all your teachers and all your resources, that it should make it very easy, especially when you're working remotely and it's remote learning as well.
Brilliant stuff. So there's two things. We're going to be talking about the
finance. We're going to be
finance.
talking about the finance. So we're going to talk about the cash flow forecast and cash budget. And secondly, we're going to look at the income statement. And there are two of the requirements that students have to actually submit as part of the Student Enterprise Awards.
Okay, I was getting a migraine thinking about that until I saw your slides earlier on, Caroline, and you demystified everything. So Caroline's going to demystify and take all the stress away from finance for your program. But before we get Caroline on, we have two competitions tonight, as always. So we have a competition for the teachers. That's a €50 one for all voucher. You're going to love this competition, teachers. And we have a competition for our students. So let's start with the students. €50 all for one voucher. What do you guys need to do to win it? Well, quite frankly, last week, the Americans finally dumped Trump, didn't they? And we have a Mayo man. Apparently, I think he's from Mayo. Joe Biden, isn't his nice name? Joe Biden, now the president of the United States of America. We do. But that's not what set the internet alight last week. Oh no, it was pictures of another candidate by the name of Bernie Sanders that popped up everywhere. Bernie Sanders in strange places. And students, what you need to do is we need to find Bernie. So tonight we need to find Bernie. Bernie is going to pop up somewhere in the next 30 minutes or so at a past Student Enterprise Program event. Look out for him. When you see Bernie, you need to text your name, your school and your county to 086 153 7440. And if you don't know who Bernie is, it's okay. He's the old guy. So when you see the old guy on your screen at a past event, 086 153 7440. But heck, that's not the fun part. The fun part is the teachers competition. So €50 one for all voucher, teachers up for grabs for you guys. And we have a maths test for you. Oh yes, I have a maths test for you tonight. And so what you have to do to win the voucher tonight is you have to solve the maths problem that I'm going to give you a little bit later. And the first one to text in your workings, because you should always put your workings in, text your workings to 086 153 7440 with your name, your school and your county will win the €50 one for all voucher. So that's coming up a little later in the show. So right now it's time to get your calculators out. It's time to bring Caroline in. So Caroline, it's over to you. I'm ready. I don't know about everyone else, but I'm ready. So let's get tonight started. You have some slides. Should we
I
look
have some slides, Greg. I'm going to actually decided to break it down into some achievable chunks, and those slides will be available for everybody afterwards so they can recap and look back on those slides.
Okay, really important. So the slides, we're going to get the slides. We'll put them up on the website tomorrow. So these guys will be available for you. So with a bit of luck, we can now see the slides.
Okay, then what I'm going to start with, Greg, is I'm actually going to start with the cash flow forecast. I've broken tonight down into two parts, the cash flow forecast / cash budget. And secondly, the second part will be on the income statement. And very important to let students know, what we would like them to know from tonight is that they would actually know and understand a cash flow forecast, and secondly, be able to create one. So that's what we're going to be looking at in today and tonight. So the definition for a cash flow forecast is, or a cash budget, is to show what is your likely cash that's going to be coming in to the business and your projected likely cash that's going to be going out of a business. And it's usually done on a month-to-month basis, and you would actually do a total as well. So we're just talking about cash, no profit, no, just cash only. Now, normally a business would forecast everything, and then they would look and do their actual. For the Student Enterprise Awards, you would have tried to forecast your cash, but really what you will be submitting is your actual cash budget. So we're actually using them as the same account for the Student Enterprise Programme.
Whoa, I had myself on mute. I was just saying, cash flow, Caroline, is an electronic payment. Is that part of our cash flow, or is it just cash?
It would be, yeah, it would be. But for the students, most of them would actually be just dealing with cash. But whether it's cash in the bank or cash in hand, both are the same in terms of your cash flow forecast.
So think financial transactions. Brilliant stuff. Okay. Brilliant stuff. I won't put myself on mute again. That was a bit of a flow you're on. Yeah?
So I like to break everything down into achievable chunks. And I suppose just to commence with that, accounting is easy and bookkeeping is easy. It's not doing algebra or detailed maths. It's basic addition, subtraction, and multiplication. And in actual fact, it's your calculator that does that. And you'll see later on that we have Excel, which will actually, a software package, which will do it for you as well. But a good idea is to know it, understand it, and then be able to talk about it. Okay, so for doing a cash flow forecast, the first thing is know the name of the account. So cash flow forecast, know how to do it. I break everything down into actually 5 steps. Observe it, and then also be aware of the template. So I'm going to start with naming it. You see up here, we have the cash flow forecast, showing all your cash that's going to come in and all your cash that's going to go out of your business. And usually it's on a month-to-month basis. And there are 5 steps. You have all your cash in that diagram. Then you have all your cash out, number 2. Number 3, you take 2 from 1, and that gives you net cash. If you start the year with opening cash, you would add your opening cash to your net cash, and that gives you closing cash. Now we'll show it in a template in the next slide. This is what the template looks like. And if you can see on top there, you have firstly your cash receipts, what's actually coming in, and you would list them all down. And then you would add up your total cash receipts. Next, you have your payments, what you're paying out. You list them all out. And then you have your total payments, number 2. And then the green net cash is your total receipts. You take away your total payments using your calculator, you fill in the answer, put in your opening cash, and you get your closing cash. And what's interesting, Greg, is the closing cash is September. When I wake up the 1st of October, that's going to be my opening cash in October. And likewise, the closing cash in October will be my opening cash in November. But that total column over there on the right-hand side, that's for all the months, for the 8 months there. So your opening cash for total will actually be September. So there's a little tip there where sometimes students fall down. They continue to put in the opening and closing cash. So it's all there for you. That's the template. And they're available on hard copy in your student learning log as well. So observe it, which is the second thing we like to do when we're looking at accounts.
Okay, fantastic. So where can we find these templates? These templates look fantastic. It seems like once you start to put the information in, it nearly takes care of itself if we're using.
It does take care of itself. We have the templates for the student learning log, okay? They're on the hard copy that students would have received and the teacher's book. But we also have them up on the website under teachers' resources, and you can download the whole toolkit, which has everything that you want in it. What I've done here is I've exaggerated the signs for addition and I've exaggerated the sign for minus, just to remind you when you're actually doing it, the plussing and the minusing. And remember, be careful, because you can make mistakes when you're adding a good few figures together and say, oh, did I minus this or plus it? So just be careful at the beginning with this plus and with this minus, even though you're using your calculator as well, okay? So observe that template and know that template. But it's not a test. You have the templates in front of you, but just to understand and what are you actually doing.
Okay, fantastic. And just remember, if you have any questions as we go through this, drop them in the comments section because we will get to them, just so you guys know. Oh, this looks like a scary slide, Caroline.
No, what this is here is to show, this is just a 3-month one, and we've actually put in figures to make it that little bit easier. And this is a company called Wild Surf Limited up here in Belmullet, a mini company that's selling accessories for surfing. And if you look at it now, there's your planned receipts. Let's look at January. They've sales, there's no investment and a loan, so their total receipts is €300. Their payments, they've wages, only 120, and they've nothing else then except for business cards. So their total payments is 150. Remember what I said earlier, you take your payments away from your receipts and you get your net cash. So the net cash is 150. They had an opening cash of 400, so their closing cash is 550. I can see the arrow going up to February. When you go to the month of February, your opening cash is the closing cash of January. Likewise, in March, the closing cash of February is the opening in March. But remember what I said earlier, this time we're doing total. So total would be for 3 months, and the opening cash would be the opening cash of January. And the two figures there of 800 should always be equal. So if you're doing it sequentially, month by month, naturally enough, you should end up with the same figure as if you were doing the total 3 months. So you're adding across and adding down and ensuring, and that's the great thing about bookkeeping, you know that it's worked when it adds up and the figures are the same at the end. All I've done with that is just a few little headings, just reiterating and explaining the different parts again. So I think that makes it more achievable. It's a smaller one and you can see how it's actually worked out.
Okay, fantastic.
So the summary always is, draft the template, follow the rules. Now, there aren't that many rules, but there is a rule for every single type of account, so get to know those rules. The calculator does the adding. And remember, for the cash flow here, it's just cash you are talking about, whether it's cash at bank or cash, it's cash only, not profit, cash. So if you're asked a question, if you're being interviewed or you're submitting, you're talking about cash. And what I've said there is perhaps you should let the Excel do the accounts for you, because we also have a resource. And Excel is a software package. There's a picture of it there on the actual slides. and there's actually built-in formulas. So it actually does up all the adding for you. But it's really important that you understand it and that you would try it yourself on a hard copy to really get that understanding of where the figures are. There's no point in throwing figures into an Excel and not knowing where they're coming from and ending up with maybe perhaps the wrong answer. So you can see there, this is the first part of tonight. It's all about following a layout, knowing it, observing it sequentially, dates, total, calculators, and there is the Excel for you, and you can put in your figures and it automatically adds them for you, so you don't even have to worry about the calculator. So Greg, you could actually throw away your calculator for the first part when you're doing that, because
brilliant.
So Excel would actually do that for you. So that's the first part of tonight, is your cash flow forecast. Now remember, I said at the beginning, and I'll reiterate it, that usually when you're forecasting your cash, you'd be trying to work out how much would you spend. We recommend you would have done that as students. They find that difficult to do. But what we're looking for is what you actually did. So what your actual cash receipts were, your actual cash payments were, and submitting it in that account, and knowing what your cash figure is at the very end.
Okay, brilliant. And then to reiterate where this is, so if we wanted to figure out where do we get this template, this looks good. We went into resources, we went into teacher resources, and it's here in this classroom, under classroom resources, full teachers toolkit. That zip file has that Excel spreadsheet, isn't that right, Caroline?
That's correct. It has everything there, and it has that Excel for you. So what I'd say is attempt it first, and then go to your Excel and use your Excel and be able to explain what cash is. Because when we're interviewing students for the competition, you often find sometimes they have beautiful accounts, but they can't explain them. So remember, go back to our learning intention, know and understand, and then be able to create it. And that's quite easy there. And accounting is a lovely subject, Greg. If students go on to do it for their Leaving Cert, there isn't all this learning off reams and reams of theory. It's just practice, knowing your basic rules, and getting on with it.
Yeah. I mean, for some reason, I'm getting really nostalgic. I don't know about you, Caroline, but I'm just really...
Overall winners in the senior category. First place, Smooth Remove from Barbecue Comprehensive School in Cork.
Oh my God, did you see that?
I think I saw somebody there, yes.
I think we just spotted Bernie there. So students, time to get texting in. So your name, your school, and your county to 086 1537 440. Best of luck. Fantastic. So that's cash flow. So we've now looked at cash flow, and we've established that it's not necessarily about the euro in your pocket, but it's any business or paid transaction. So that could be a bank transfer, that could be a Revolut payment, or that could be a physical cash payment is going into your cash flow. What's next for tonight?
Okay, now we're going to go on to the income statement. And I've just created a very simple income statement, again, to explain the concept.
Okay. Well, here we go. Fantastic. I'm your virtual clicker now, Caroline, so you can say next slide, please.
Okay, next slide. Okay, thank you, Greg. So for the income statement, our learning intentions, what we want students to know is know and understand an income statement, and secondly, be able to create it. Okay, so we'll go on to the next slide. So for an income statement, when do you do it? You do it for the end of your trading year. So for the students, it might be for the end of March. And I'm actually going to break it up into two parts because some of the terminology here is new for students. So I'm going to break it up into an income statement 1, an income statement 2, and then I'm going to join them together and become the one income statement. So we're only dividing them to explain it. And you'll see by the end of it, we'll actually join them up, and it makes it that much easier. If you're going to learn something, you always break it down into achievable chunks. And the difference with this account is it's going to show you your profit. Now, a really important statement is profit is not cash.
Yeah.
Like some companies have very profitable products or services, but if they don't have the cash to keep going, they're not going to make it. So you do need the cash and you need to know the difference between profit and cash. Next, please, Greg. So again, I break everything down into achievable chunks. Name it, it's going to be the income statement. Know it, there is rules, and I thought it was easier to break it down into 2 parts for these rules. Observe it, look at the layout, and finally, apply it. You put in your own figures into it, and you will be able to do it. Again, it's not difficult maths. It's basic addition, subtraction, multiplication. The calculator does the calculations. Maybe bring back that calculator again, Greg. And the Excel, the software where we have built-in formulas, can be done at the very end as well. So think of it there that accounting is easy. Name it, know it, observe it, and finally apply it.
Okay,
Next.
I think I broke my calculator earlier
Oh,
on.
I'm so sorry, Greg, but at least you have it. Okay. So I'm going to start with a very, very simple example. And we're going to keep the figures very small, and we're only going to do it for 1 week. But if you understand it simply, you will be able to apply it to any of your accounts. And that's the great thing about accounting. So we're going to take this little girl, Cara Flannery, and she's a first-year business studies student, and she decided she's going to make masks, but these are very special ones. These are ones with extra filter, extra protection, etc. She buys in the mask and she sells the mask after doing all these extra things to it. Now I'm going to bring in a word here, is stock. Anything that you are selling in your mini company, you call it your stock. In a grocery, your stock are your groceries. In a jeweler shop, it's your jewelry. In a garage, it's your motor cars or your motor vehicles or trucks. So get familiar with the word stock. So Cara sells 1 mask for €10. We call that selling price. She buys it in at €5. We call that cost. Now get familiar with cost price and selling price. You would always have your selling price greater than cost unless they were damaged or something happened to them. So Cara's doing this thing. She's actually making a profit of €5, which is your selling price minus your cost of 5. So can you see there, this is her profit, €5 on 1 mask. So the formula is, we're going to call it sales. So if you're selling, sales minus your purchases, and this gives you what you call a profit. Okay?
Brilliant. So stock is your product. So stock is the product that you're selling.
It's the product that you're actually selling. Yeah.
Brilliant. Okay. Seems easy enough.
Okay. And sometimes, especially for the junior and especially for students who did do business studies, I'd always recommend you keep a little dictionary. You create your own and you write the words to become familiar with. You know, you have to use a word 17 times to be fluent in it. So if they're only hearing stock for the first time, we've already said it 5, we're on to 6. So by 17, it becomes part of your language. Let's look at example 2. Let's pretend that Cara had 8 masks. Now we're keeping it really simple, and she sells all her stock, so she's nothing left over at the end. So now her sales is €80 because the selling price is 10, so it's 8 by 10. Her purchases is €40, 8 masks by 5, the cost price, purchases at cost. So she makes a profit of, remember the formula, sales minus purchases equals profit of €40. So 80 minus 40 is €40. So now we're coming into words like sales, so that's what we call when we sell things, purchases, we've profit, we have stock, we've mentioned cost price, selling price, and now we're going to do the account called an income statement. And remember, I'm breaking it into 2 parts to really simplify it. And if you understand something, it's so easy, do it. You can't learn something unless you understand it. So we'll go on to the next part.
Okay.
And again, we're keeping the scenario very simple, but remember, if you can do it simply, you can do it for any of your questions. Let's look at Cara again. So example number 3. Imagine that one of the masks was faulty. And I'm talking about the ones that Cara bought, her purchases, and she returned it. And also a customer wasn't happy, it was the incorrect size, it didn't do what it was supposed to do, and returned 1 mask also. Okay? So our sales was 8 masks by €10, which is 80. We don't just minus them, we have to show everything as it occurred because so many transactions happen that you could get everything mixed up. So everything has to happen in a logical sequence. So the customer returns 1 mask. Remember, this is called now sales returns. And the selling price is €10. We sell at selling price, we buy, we purchase at cost. So it'll be sales minus sales returns. Her true sales now is only €70. Let's go on to the purchases. Initially, it was 8 masks by €5 each, which was 40. She returned one that was faulty, but this time purchases is at cost price, the €5. So it'll be 40 minus 5, which is 35. So her profit will be the formula, sales minus purchases equals profit. Her sales is not 80 because of the returns, it's 70. Her purchases is 35, so she actually makes a profit of €35. Okay, now you're going to say, my goodness, she with loads of transactions, it's going to get complex, and that's what happens, and that's why we do accounts. We'll just go into one more example to add to it.
Brilliant. So just so we get our head around. So this is no different from maths. So with maths, it's very, very important that you show your workings when you're doing maths. Because if you make a mistake, well then, quite frankly, you get no points. So it's kind of the same thing. So we need to document every little step of the way on this.
Absolutely.
Brilliant. So, oh God, it's getting complicated now, lads.
Yeah, it's going to start, but it's not really. It's just bringing in 2 other things here. So we'd 8 masks. One was faulty, bought, and she returned it, and a customer was sold the incorrect size and returned it. So she has a mask left over, which we call closing stock. We're only going to sell 7 this time, okay? And actually, she had 1 in her house. So now we're going to make it a little bit more complicated. She had 1 in her house from she got as when she was first starting. She was looking for samples, so it was actually 1 stock there. So we've 2 new things added in here. We have an opening stock and we have a closing stock. Now her sales this time, she's only sold 7 masks, so it's €70. There's 1 sales return, selling price is 10, so now her sales is down to 60. Purchases, she bought in 8 masks at €5 each, which is 40. Returned 1 mask, cost price at 5, which is 35. And remember, she had 1 mask in the house already. What do we value our stock at? Always cost. So you must know that stock is always valued at cost, not at selling price, because you may not sell that next year for that, and it could go out of, there may not be no need for masks, or maybe for different types or whatever. And she also has stock left over. So it's just going to get too complex to try and keep doing what we were doing, but I hope that you understand it. But how we can come over that complexity is in accounting, we have a structure, a tabular layout, which helps us put in the figures. So and remember, we're keeping our dictionary there on the right-hand side. Again, I'll just reiterate, stock valued at cost. So this is how we show it. This is an example. Sales was €80. So we have a column, we have 3 columns, they're money columns. We write in sales €80. You minus your sales returns of 10, and that gives your net sales of 70. And now your cost of sales, we're calling our purchases cost, because it cost you more than just purchases, because you had stock at the beginning, there was stock at the end, and there was returns. Not too complex, but just a little bit at the beginning. So you fill in the middle column, your opening stock, which is 5, always valued at cost. Your purchases were 40, but there was 1 returns of 5, and that gives you 35. So your real cost is 40. However, you had 1 mask left over, your closing stock, and see less closing stock of 5. So your real cost is 35, and take 35 away from 70, and it gives you gross profit of 35. Isn't that much clearer than us multiplying, adding, putting all the different things? I can see there my total sales 70, my profit 35. I can see my opening stock, closing stock, and my true purchases. So that's part 1 of the income statement.
And that's brilliant. And we have an Excel spreadsheet again that you can download for this, which is absolutely fantastic. The point you have at the bottom of that slide, which is hard to see, because I always wondered, so what's gross profit? So you're saying the amount of product you sell minus the cost of buying that product equals your gross profit. Is that correct?
Absolutely. So it's a new word. We were just calling it profit up until now, but actually we're going to be more specific. This is your gross profit. Now remember, gross profit is not your true profit. It's the difference between what you buy and what you sell at. Okay?
Okay, fantastic. I think it's time for a bit of a teacher's quiz. I don't know about you.
Okay, I think it'd be great. I think it'd be fantastic.
I genuinely think it is now, So let's so we need to get our calculators out, teachers. It's going to be difficult. Switch our heads on. We need to get our texting fingers all nimble for 086 153 7440. And let me just make sure we have the thing ready to go. So what kind of quiz? I hear you guys are absolutely appalled with this idea here. So has anyone ever heard of the program Countdown? Well, we're going to essentially do a bit of countdown. Imagine, Caroline, can you say Carol, one from the top and the rest from the bottom? Say that to me then.
One from the rest and one from the, what did you say, sir?
One from the top and the rest from the bottom.
And the rest from the bottom.
Okay, perfect. I've got you. So I'm just going to pause it for a second. So we got the idea here. So our target is 168. We have a number of numbers and we've got to get to that target. Sure, we've seen the show. I know you're all teachers. You got nothing better to do in the afternoons after school than watch Countdown. Isn't that right? Only joking. So are we ready? Here we go. So our target's 168. Over to you, Caroline. What did you get?
I didn't bother doing it, Greg. I'm sorry.
That's disgraceful. So hopefully
we'll get the answer out.
Hopefully we'll figure that out. So we need to get one. So I need your markings as well. So so your workings, should I say? So I need your workings in the text as well. On how you physically solved 168. And heck, if no one gets it, it's very simple. I'll show you how to do it a little bit later. But let's get back to some income statements. I'm quite frankly missing them already. So let's get back to part 2.
Okay, so we had just mentioned the word gross profit, and now I'm giving you another example. And what I have done there is an explanation done. What is it? So sales is the sales value of your goods and services. And that was the example there with Cara selling 8 of her masks, €80. I've then explained that sales returns is the value of the goods returned at selling price. And it's explained in the blue again. And then you get your total sales less your cost of sales. Again, your opening stock will always be at cost price. So I've mentioned it for Cara. Your purchases, you minus your returns, you buy at cost, you've given your net purchases, you take away your closing stock, and you get your gross profit, which is the difference between what you buy and what you sell for. So that's part 1 of your income statement. Observe it. The 3 money columns and the example with explanations. So if you get stuck, you can go back and that's all explained. So the next slide then, we have looked at the income statement part 1, which was the gross profit. We're now going to look at the income statement part 2. We're breaking it down into 2 parts. And the second one is actually to find your net profit, which is your true profit. Okay, so the name is the income statement, and I'm going to say part 2 for the moment. It records all your expenses, And the purpose of this account is to calculate net profit. The formula is gross profit minus expenses. And don't forget to be building up your dictionary on the right-hand side, gross profit, which we've been talking about. But now we have a new word, expenses, and we have another new word, net profit. On to the next one. So what are expenses? These are kind of the fees that you have when you're actually running your business. Now, the one that a lot of students leave out is the wages. Like, you have to put in for your time. Your time is precious. Your time is a very important resource. So wages, work out how many hours did it take or how many seconds or whatever you're going to do, but do put in your wages. Your expenses might be things like printing. Some schools might rent out the machinery to you for a nominal amount, stationery, internet, etc. So these are your expenses. Okay.
Well, I know as a student, you may feel, I don't want to put in my wages because I want to make it look like I've made more money than I really have. What would you say to that student?
You can't. It's just not on. You have to. If you are serious about your product or service, you have to cost it properly. You have to put in your expense. It is part of your expenses. And if you kind of say, Asha, I was doing it free anyhow, that's not really good practice. Good practice is valuing time, know what time is, and it's actually a really good skill for the future as well. Right. Like, there's no point of a product that's taking you hours to complete. It will actually make you look at it and say, this is just not feasible as well, which is a very important point too. Yeah.
So value yourself and don't shoot yourself in the foot by hiding the wages which you need to put in. Brilliant.
So I'm going to go back to Cara Flannery from the first one, and she had a gross profit of 35. We're going to continue this on. Now, this is only for a week, so I kept the figures really, really, really small and small amounts. Cara decided to hire a friend to keep up with demand, and she pays her friend €5, which is wages. And she also pays rent to her parents of €10 for the room because she makes a mess and she takes over it. And with all this remote learning, every room is very precious on what's happening. So she pays them rent. So the income statement part 2, you're going to have your gross profit. Now you less your expenses, and that's just a heading, less expenses. And in the middle column, you put your wages, your rent. So you have 5 and 10. So add them together and your total expenses are 15. You take 15 away from 35 and you get €20. So your net profit, your true profit isn't the 35 because you had wages and you had rent, and therefore it's actually €20. So net profit, and observe it, this is going to be a continuation, and that's why we have 3 columns. Get to know the template. The 3 columns, really, that first column is only for the purchase returns for the moment. So therefore, net profit equals gross profit minus expenses. Observe it. There is an example there with the template. So what I've done now is I've joined them together, because you don't have an income statement 1 and an income statement 2. You just have an income statement. But if you were to show this to you at the beginning, it would just be too confusing. But having broken it down into achievable chunks, it makes it so much easier. So these are all the same figures. So where you have the gross profit, you just continue on. You don't say income statement again, you just continue it on, and there is your net profit. And I've exaggerated the plus and the minus signs to remind you, because sometimes what happens with students, and it can even happen in exam, when they're doing the question, it says minus, but they actually add. They're not thinking or whatever. So just think of it first logically. Returns, does that reduce or does that increase my purchases? It reduces, so I'm minus. Likewise for sales, does returns increase or decreases? It decreases, so you minus. Okay, and that's the layout. That's the template. If you follow that, you'll have no problem.
So you've tricked us into getting it, Caroline. That's fantastic.
Yeah, that's
fantastic.
Very, very important.
Brilliant stuff.
So I'll summarize. Draft the template. Follow the rules. The calculator does the adding. Remember, you are calculating your profit, not gross profit anymore. You will show gross profit, but actually your net profit. And just like the cash flow forecast and cash budget, we have an Excel where you can put all your fingers in and you don't have to worry about it. All your figures are in and you can let the Excel do the accounts for you as such.
I think I have a copy of it somewhere. Let's have a look.
Have you got a copy of it? So,
that's it.
And then, yeah, it's all there. So just use the figures that are relevant for you. And when you put in those figures, it automatically does the calculations. But get to know it and get to know the difference between cash and profit. Remember your stock always at cost. You sell at selling price. You buy at cost price. We call buying purchases. We call selling sales. And don't forget your opening stock at the beginning, the closing stock at the end. And then your expenses are your day-to-day running of your actual business.
Okay, fantastic stuff. So students, if you use Google Sheets over Excel.
Yes, absolutely. Either. Yeah.
Very easy. You can just export your Excel spreadsheet into Google Sheets and everything works perfectly. So, and just to remind everyone that is under teachers resources, and it's under the full teachers toolkit in the zip file is where we find those Excel spreadsheets. So,
and Greg, just say as well, if you're having any difficulty with the questions, to all students out there, please feel free to contact us. There's a live chat, there's email, there's, contact your student coordinators, etc. There's so much support out there. Feel free to contact us and we'll support you in whatever way we can. If you want to direct message us or whatever, that's fine too.
Brilliant stuff. I think it's time. Let's announce some winners and then we'll see whether there's any competitions. I'm very excited now. Did any teacher, I wonder, did any teacher get that?
Get it right. I'd be interested in that because I didn't.
No, I kid you not. They actually did amazingly well.
Oh, did they? Okay.
A lot of bright teachers listening in. So let me read here. I should really have my glasses on here like you, Caroline. So the winner of the teacher, so the teacher that's win the €50 One for All voucher is Martina Farrell from Skull Murray. God, I probably mispronounced that. She's from Louth. So Martina, well done. You are
congratulations, Martina.
And just in case you were wondering, 168. She times 50 times 3, 150. She added the 10 and then added the 8. That simple. She got 168. So well done, Martina. Brilliant stuff. Onto our students. Let's see whether we can find our student. Someone from Waterford. If you're listening from Waterford, you could be in luck here. There we are. We're back again. Thought we were lost forever, Caroline. So our student winner, winning the €50 One for All voucher, is Sophie Reid. Hello, Sophie. Sophie's from Newtown School in Waterford. So a huge congratulations.
Congratulations, Sophie.
So well done, guys. That's absolutely brilliant. Now, just a lot of people saying that it's kind of, you've demystified things really, really well. I just want to pull this up. Aaron Leonard asked, does it matter if my cash flow forecast is very different than my cash flow statement?
No, it doesn't, because and what I said there is we're not really, you can forecast yourself, but you'll be submitting your actual cash. Now, years ago, people would be forecasting for the next few years, but we don't go into that. So that doesn't matter.
Brilliant. And next on the Aaron Leonard show, it's a good question. Could you explain what intellectual property is?
Well, I suppose the intellectual property, we have a full actually live broadcast on it, and it's to do with property rights, etc. So that's where we had that down as one of the fees, etc. in some of the accounts. So it's just to be able to pay. You can't just copy something. And what I would suggest you do is listen back to that live broadcast. It was absolutely superb. She goes through every single thing from trademark, copyrights, etc.
Yeah, So check out a past broadcast. But again, if you own certain property that you're using as part of your business, that's that would go in under an expense if you had to.
Expense, yeah. For paying for copyright would go in as an expense, yeah.
Yeah, so just bear that would, just in case you're wondering where that goes, Aaron, that would go under expense. And it's lovely when people say lovely things. So there you go, Caroline.
It's lovely.
Demystified things in a really, really good way. I think one of the big thing tonight that you've taught me is a bit like the Nike swoosh. Do we remember what the what the Nike swoosh stands for? And you remember the tagline for the Nike swoosh, Caroline? I'm sure Nike's big in Belmullet. Just do it. Just do it. So look, finance is scary. It doesn't come naturally for a lot of us. It doesn't, but the support is there. So it'd be well worth watching back Caroline's session, downloading the slides and following the step-by-step process. And once we start to do it, thank you, Lily. Once we start to do it, we suddenly realize it's actually not as difficult as we thought. So that's what I would say is, don't let the finance piece disarm you. Once you start to use the spreadsheets and we start to understand the slides, it actually, even for someone like me, who's not very good at maths, it becomes relatively, and I do say relatively.
See, Greg, you don't even need to be good at maths. It's nothing, and that's, I think, where people have a perception about it, have a block about it, that, it's very basic in one way,
Yeah, and actually, Lily said, and again, it's lovely to hear from other students what's worked from them. So Lily says, they've kept track of all their sales in a copy before we did accounts. I mean, she found that was hugely helpful. So there's a lovely tip.
Excellent, yeah, fantastic. Well done, Lily.
Yeah, so no, that's absolutely brilliant. So believe it or not, that's it for tonight. We've navigated number 9. Don't forget, we're on live chat literally every weekday till 1 p.m. So if you do have any questions or queries or concerns, reach out and talk to us. So you'll find us at studententerprise.ie. Keep an eye on social media, our social media channels for competitions coming up in the coming weeks. Just a lovely, another nice comment. So how you, Callum? So I just thought I'd acknowledge yourself. I want to say a huge thanks to Caroline for tonight, because you've actually taught us all something. You've made it easy. You've made it simple. We follow the process and we realize it's not that scary at all. Don't forget that tonight's program, because this will be one of these ones that I will be watching again. It's available on playback from tomorrow morning, so you'll be able to find that on the studententerprise.ie website or on our YouTube channel. So you'll see us there. I believe our next broadcast it's the 8th, 2 weeks from now, the 8th of February. We're keeping the topic a top secret. Maybe we don't know what it is yet, but it's a top secret. So it's going to be a really good one, I will say that. So we're back live 7 p.m. on the 8th of February. So stick that in your diaries. In the meantime, keep your eye on social media to find out the breaking news of what that is. Stay safe. I know it's difficult to be in a virtual classroom at the moment and communicating with our teacher or with our students remotely. So I suppose be patient with each other, be empathetic with each other, also be dogged and don't give up. We're in this together. So from me, Greg Fry, and from Caroline, our wonderful resident guest today, stay safe and stay healthy, and we'll see you on the 8th.
Okay, bye everyone.
See you. Bye. Yes.